Hello students, welcome to the session 3 of this pre-placement training program. Today we'll basically talk about how you can draft a very good resume. As you all know, resume is the first step towards any job application. Any recruitment and selection process starts with the organization inviting the resume, and there are thousands of resumes which are submitted. So it's responsibility of each and every applicant that they should try to have their resume in the top 5 or top 10 applications which have been received. And for that, it is really important to have perfection and a great content in the resume. So today we will discuss all these things and we'll see how can we basically create a great resume. So first of all, let's look at the content of the training program. So first thing, we will discuss the training plan, and then we'll look at the basics of resume. Then we'll look at the structure, and after that I will tell you some very important points which you should take care of. Finally, we'll look at the examples, and then as usual I'll share the links for the training material. So let's start the session. So the first thing which you can see on your screen is the training plan. So we have already completed session 1 and 2. If you are interested in understanding how you can write a very good email, or how can you create a very good, very attractive LinkedIn profile, so we have already uploaded the videos of session 1 and 2 on our YouTube channel. You can just have a look at it from there, and based on the suggestions which I have given in those sessions, you can try to implement. If in case you ever face any problem, you are free to reach me out on my Facebook page, and I will definitely try to solve all your problems, all your queries. So today in the session 3, as you can see, uh, we are going to talk about the CV refinements, what all changes which you should make in your CV. So moving forward, let's first talk about the basics of resume, because this is really important to understand that what exactly a resume is, and what is its importance. And lastly, we'll see how a best resume is a different from a normal one. And let me give you a disclaimer here that the answers which I'm going to share in for these three questions are purely my own answers. They are basically nothing but the words expressing my experience. So the experience which I'm having in this field, it has been shared in the form of these answers which you are going to see on the screen, and you obviously won't find them on internet anywhere else. And I just want to give an example that in my own case, I have refined my one resume. I have three types of resumes. So one resume I have refined more than 150 times, and right now my resume is in such a shape that people really love it. Whosoever sees it, HR, any manager, any person in the senior leadership, they really like my resume, and I really get a lot of appreciations for what I have done, the changes which I have made, the level at which I have taken my resume. So the first, starting with the answer to the first question. So what a resume or CV is. So according to me, it's actually your life summarized in 1 or 2 pages. More the successful and accomplished you are, more valuable it is for the world. Okay, see, for a job uh, vacancy, thousands of resume will be submitted, and if your resume is actually worth and worthy enough, then you will get a chance for the interviews. And the worth of the resume is purely dependent on how successful and accomplished you are in your life. because this is what you will actually put in the resume, that what you have done in your life in different fields. So it's really important that you shape your life in a good direction to have your resume moving forward in a good direction and increasing your chance of selection. So moving on to the next question, what is the importance of a resume or a CV? So the resume or a CV is actually, it's your first impression to the corporate world. And irrespective of how much talented you are, a bad first impression could be your last. Doesn't matter how good you are. Imagine you are sitting in Bhimtal right now. All the students of Build Institute of Applied Sciences, they all are sitting at Bhimtal, and now you want your resume to be seen by somebody sitting in a corporate office of some big multinational company in Bangalore. Now, obviously, that guy, the HR manager, hasn't seen you, or he or she doesn't know you personally. So in that case, your resume will be the first impression for her. And irrespective of how your talent, if you haven't crafted your resume well, she or he might not be interested in having further interactions with you. So that's the level of importance a resume have. Now moving on to the next answer. So what differs a best resume from a normal one? Well, the answer is perfection. And I also have a measurement of perfection. And the rule is 15 seconds. So if the other person is able to gauge your life by reading your resume in 15 seconds, it means your resume is a perfect one. And that's the best you can present to anyone. So remember this rule, those 2 pages, anybody can go through in just 15 seconds. If this is possible, then you will crack all job interviews. You will get selected everywhere you will apply. Where you apply. So I hope now the importance of the resume is clear to you. Now moving on to the next section. So this is how the structure of a resume should look like. Now this thing, it's purely subjective because it depends on the context as well. But this is what I follow, and like I have been very much successful, and I have got a good response from the people. Nobody has raised any objection on the structure which I have. So I am very much hopeful that this will also work for you. So the first thing in your resume you should have is the basic information about your name, contact details, locations, etc. Then the next thing which you should have is an objective, but make sure you have an original one. What people generally do, they copy paste the objective. So if you can have your own original objective, it will be really great, because sometimes people do ask about your objective, and if you, let's say, if you don't remember your objective, and or if I say, you know if it's not original, if they feel a gap between what is your objective is and what you're actually trying to do in your life, then this gap could be really dangerous for you. So try to have an original one. Third thing which you can have in your resume is your education. Education should be from your latest one to your, if you are postgraduate, then the post graduation will be in the top, then your graduation. I would say from the recent till graduation should be your benchmark. It's not necessary to include schooling until unless you have done exceptionally well in your schools, like you are a 96 98% holder Or I would say, while being a little bit lenient, if you're 90 plus, add schooling, otherwise not necessary. Then the next thing which comes is work experience. Now the freshers will have a problem that, sir, we don't have any work experience. What should we do? Then the thumb rule for you guys is that if your internship is of more than 6 months, then you can mention that as your work experience. If it is less than 6 months, you should not write it under work experience, because this is a standard policy which is followed across all the companies, that 6 months is the minimum duration which is acceptable as a work experience if you're an intern. The next thing which you can mention in your resume is certifications and tools. I would like to make it clear here that certifications and tools must not be confused with skills. Skills are different, certifications and tools are different. So make sure you are able to differentiate. And then training and projects is the next thing which you can mention here. All kind of trainings which you have done. Then the seventh thing will be achievements. If you have any achievements, try to mention it at this at the seventh position in your resume. Your precedence of your achievement should be uh, anything at international level, then national, then state, then district, then city, and then school. This is the one way of doing the precedence. The next other way of doing it is any achievement which reflects your leadership quality. Then uh, something which is you feel that this is unique, and very few people are proficient in that particular art in which you have achieved something. And then you can mention all other things. Okay, so this is how I prefer to write my achievements. And then next you will write skills. So skills are different from certification and tools. So let's say if you are having a certification of project management, okay, then in certification, let's say I am having a PMP certification of project management. Then in the certification, I will write PMP, but in skills, I will write project management. So this is the difference which you should understand. That skill is the outcome of the certification. A skill is something intangible which is there inside you, whereas certifications and tools are basically the source of earning that skill. So this is the difference which you should understand. What people do, people mix everything. For example, people work on some tools and they mention those tools in the skills. I understand that you have obtained that skill uh, while learning that tool, but a tool is different and skill is a different. Make sure you understand this difference and also mention it in your resume. And finally, you can provide references, like the people whom you feel that if the HR calls them, they will provide good feedback about you. Okay, so moving forward, so now we will talk about the points to ponder. Uh, these are some of the points which everybody should take care of. The first is, like, you should be very honest. This is something which I should not be telling you, but because people do commit such mistakes, it's really important to tell you, be honest. Because if let's say you lie something and you get selected and later you are caught, then you might face some legal actions from the company as well, or from any organization where you got selected. So be honest. Second thing which you should make sure is that you should not consider other fools. Like what students do, they try to manipulate things, and they try to adjust few things in your resume by thinking that किसी को पता नहीं चलेगा, but सबको पता चल जाता है जो आपका जो resume check कर रहा है. He or she, they check thousands of resume every day. They know what kind of things people do, and they have also gone through that phase of life in which you are right now. वो भी कभी स्टूडेंट्स थे, उनको पता है आप क्या क्या हरकतें करोगे. So make sure you remember this fact. Then what I personally feel is providing family details, address, hobbies, aspects of personality, positive negative trait which people they talk about. So I think these things are not mandatory. If you are providing these things in your resume, it's purely your choice, but I don't recommend. Then this is very important thing which I want to mention. Like try to provide every information in your resume as a one liner. Like in one liner, your information you should be able to summarize your um stuff which you want to say. Like for example, in work experience, we have lots of things to mention that I have done this, I have done this. So each and everything should be one point, and that one point should finish in one line. Maximum two is allowed. Like, there is no hard and fast rule, but it's very easy. Remember the 15 seconds rule. So 15-second rule is always possible when you have the maximum data in one liner form. Then in the work experience, as I mentioned earlier as well, that the leadership roles should come at the top. Then you can talk about your core competency. Then you can talk about your managerial role. And finally, you can talk about the other stuff which you did in your job. So, leadership should come first, always, in your work experience. The next point I had already discussed, but I've still mentioned it here that, knowing a tool is not a skill. Skill is the outcome which the tool coding produces. Okay, your skill is that you know programming language. Working on that tool or that software related to that programming language is not skill, it is a tool. So understand this difference. Then the achievements also I have already mentioned that the sequence of articulation for achievement should be international, national, state, district, city, college, etc. Now, some people I saw that some people also put declaration in their resume. See, this is not mandatory. First thing. Second thing, what happens that when you put a declaration, you should also put a date. Now, let's say if you haven't updated your resume for 6 months, and somebody has asked you urgently to send it to that particular person. Now, when you will send it, so obviously that declaration part, when the person will see, he or she will see, oh, it's 6 months old. So it's useless to have declaration in the resume until unless if your employer has asked specifically कि नहीं मेरे को declaration चाहिए end में, then you can give declaration, otherwise not important. मेरे को तो आज तक कभी जरूरत नहीं पड़ी. Then the last thing which is extremely important is that resume is tailored according to your job description. Now, how it is tailored according to the job description, this I basically tell in my advanced courses. So this is basic training which I am giving free of cost to all of you. So obviously, if you want to learn how resume is tailored according to the job description, you would need to have an advanced training from me. Okay? Free में इतना ही मिलेगा. Now, we look at the example at the end. Okay? Or I think let's have a look at the example. So if you can see, this is my resume, and whatever I discussed with you, it is according to that. You can see my image. You can see basic information on the top, like number of years of experience, date of birth, location and all. And then you can see the objective. It's a very old objective which I had. Now my objective is changed, but I won't mention it. Then it's education, MBA, and then b.tech I have mentioned. Then if you can see the work experience, all these work experiences are, they're dummy ones. I have removed uh, the actual data so that you guys are not able to copy it. So, this is how the work experience is from the latest to the oldest. You can see I have used a lot of pictures. This thing you can also try, but purely depends on you. I won't give you any advice on it. This is personal choice. Then if you can see, I have talked about certifications and tools. So only certifications and tools are mentioned, no skills and no skill set is mentioned here. Finally, the training and projects is also, you can see I mentioned about trainings, I mentioned about the what I have done in the research work, and finally the projects also are mentioned. Then the achievements, you can see my achievements here. All the achievements are there, which I am having. Then the skills are there. These are the skills which I have got, and finally you can see the references. So this was an example that this is how a resume should look like. Finally, the link for the training materials, I will provide these links in the description as well. What you can do, you can just, YouTube you are already watching. On Facebook you can reach out to me and get your doubts clarified. Okay, you can scan these barcodes if you want. Finally, thank you very much